Interactive Studio production.
What's this? Yes, yes. Naughty Dog. Yeah, sometimes you just want to change things. I don't want to change things now. Just want to talk about stuff. Which is why I'm gonna reduce. Wow, 101%. Okay. Okay, I think what I want to talk about is finding truth in movies. Ah, super cool. Actually, that's an interesting concept. Right? Kick him in the balls. Right? I mean, I'm just watching. Okay. My teenage years. Okay. You see, it's actually not very wise to do this now. For very specific reasons, such as I don't have the run fast skill yet, right? Which would allow me, right, to run fast. Yeah. What point? Oh, cheers. I think I'm just curious. Let's just see how fast. Well, I got the gem, right? Oh, and it's still the same game. You know, I don't really get it. Why do I have to type in my name every time? Why did the name Otis come up here? How would I know? Right? I hope you're not listening to this because that would be weird. And if you do, it's just a name. I mean, just figure it out for yourself. Oh, Captain Oates. Or was it Captain Otis? Ding 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 ding. Okay. Have you ever watched The OC? In German, because Germans always have to come up with their own names for shows. Yeah, fuck it. Sorry. I don't want to do this now. I don't want to do this now. At all. I just want to play the game. I don't actually want to play the game. I'm just gonna play the game. Because I'm a content creator on YouTube. And people still give me shit. I mean, it's not entirely true. Oh wow, I already did all of that. Wait, but that's the one? I did not win this because it annoyed me. Like, really annoyed me. I just have to rearrange something. which only men can understand, or women when they have breasts, or big breasts. You don't have to have a big penis for it to feel like it's in a weird position. And there are actually ways to grow your manhood by doing specific exercises, like trying to massage your ding-a-ling, your appendage, your connector, without orgasming, or it's usually guys that have a lot of sex that have big penises, you know. So if you don't have a partner who you can have a lot of sex with, then the only way to have it grow would be basically to just keep working with it. See, suddenly it's much more easy. I have lentil soup on the stove, and occasionally I take a look at the OC. And sometimes I'm not sure whether I should hate, like really hate the characters, such as Marissa Cooper, who is probably like the essence of insecurity and, you know, projecting all your bullshit onto others. I mean, that's basically who she is as a character. It's actually pretty stupid. Doesn't matter. And I sometimes don't understand why, you know, Ryan puts up with her. Because what you can clearly see is that she has no idea what she's doing. And I don't actually think there's... I mean, wow. I mean, Ryan's not really her boyfriend, he's more like her caretaker. And sometimes we hear phrases like, right, you always marry your father or your mother. Well, you could actually marry your father if you're a boy, because there are women that can represent your father and there are men that can represent your mother. Because there are manly men, and then there are men with more female traits. But it's also, right, I mean, you don't have to have either of these. It's just what you focused on, or what your parents or the society you live in focused on when they raised you. Which to me, probably, I mean, you can talk about transgender. I mean, it's a bunch of confused children. And we allow these children, I mean, we just have to be open about talking about topics like this. You can't just shut down anyone who says something about transgender or just gives an alternative perspective and then just say, yeah, you're not allowed to talk. I mean, we have to be open to people just speaking their minds about topics because, you know, let's say you are kind of confused about your place in life. Are you a man? Are you a woman, right? I mean, it's fairly easy. Do you have a penis? Then you're a man. If you don't feel like a man, then you have to figure out what it means to be a man. Well, but for that you would still need a penis, right? Because you know, they just take it away because you're pretty convincing. You know, I've talked about this already. I just think it's an important topic, right? I mean, if you manage to convince psychiatrists that you need to be, I mean, what does that say about the psychiatrist? The psychiatrist should be able to figure out, you know, why you think your gender is wrong and then offer you solutions. Well, I'm not a psychiatrist and I can't really give you advice, but I'm pretty sure that if you're a, you know, if you have a penis and you think you should be a woman, you know, one solution would be go more into nature, you know, go hiking barefoot. Do this for 1 year and you won't have doubts about, you know, your gender anymore. Just fuck off, you stupid thing. I mean, that's just a guarantee. You won't ever think again. Because what you lack is stability. And you can't give stability to yourself. So the only way to give yourself stability is by toughening up. And hiking barefoot is certainly a way to toughen up. You know, I'm not saying it's what anyone should do. I'm just saying it's what I did. And I was a pretty sensitive child, I think. You know, I can't really remember, because the only perspective I have on my childhood is, right, the one I had because other people treated me in a certain way, which often wasn't actually me, it was just their fears, right? You know, a mother can dress her child in super warm clothes in winter, although the child actually doesn't need it. You know, I mean, there are many instances that we know of where this happens, right? Overprotective mothers. And then you can say, yeah, well, if the child allows it, of course. Yeah, maybe I did. I don't know. You know, I don't know how stubborn I was. You know, what's a strong mind? What's a weak mind? I certainly was drawn into the storytelling that you receive from nature, from society, right? The kind of mob mentality. But it never really sucked me in. I mean, I'm just saying, I did have WhatsApp for some time, but I realized immediately that it just sucks too much energy. And so I got rid of it pretty quickly. Right? The only reason I actually wanted to have it was because I thought I was doing others a favor. And then you realize at some point that, you know, who am I really doing a favor with this? Because, you know, shouldn't I be looking at what I want rather than what other people want? And, you know, just because other people want to send me stupid gifs or images or something, because they don't know what else to do with their time, doesn't mean that I have to want to receive them. So I fairly early already started sorting out my contact list. At the moment I have I think eight contacts in my contacts. That's it. You know, if you annoy me too much, I just delete you. I mean, that's just what I choose, right? And you can force me to have your number. So if I don't, you know, if I feel like you're taking too much of my time, I'm just gonna delete you, because most people, they're too proud. They don't really contact you. And if I tell you once, right, I just have to be a little bit unfriendly to certain people, right? And once they get the message, they just stop contacting me. Or I just talk more than they like to listen to. Plus, I talk about fairly, you know, I don't really have casual conversations. You know, I talk about deep stuff. You know, if you would ever have my number, which you won't, right? I'm fairly certain about this one. And she would call me, then what would happen? Well, I would start digging for something, because clearly the reason you call me is because, I don't know, maybe you need a friend? Shit. Or maybe you need advice? Or maybe you need whatever else. Oh, nice. I think. Right? There's something you feel like you need and you think I can give it to you. Right? So I'm just gonna make sure we're gonna get to that. And now I'm saying never say never, right? Never say never. You never know who listens to this. And I haven't made up my mind yet. But I'm just saying, if somebody terrorizes me... Hey, that was actually kind of easy. No, actually it wasn't. It took me some time to figure this one out. So at the moment I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I'm not just gonna hand out my number to random strangers. And if I did, right, I still know how to get rid of them. You know, I can just block you. I can just block you. You know, sometimes I'm a little bit concerned. But, you know, you never know who listens to this. So I may have pretty weird and random ideas. And the question is, should I give them to you? So I've been watching the OC. I'm still in season 1. Because it's actually a very extensive TV show. Like, very extensive. And because I've watched it already when I was younger, I just want to see what this was actually about, right? I mean, what do these shows, what's the message behind these shows? I mean, you could say they present you with, you know, an escape, a different kind of life, just looking at other people's problems. But you can also see, how do you feel about the characters? I mean, sometimes I understand how Marissa feels like. What I don't understand is why people still spend time with her. Like, why is Ryan so concerned? You know, is this love or is this just... She's just clearly taking advantage of him. That's what I think. Because she's troubled and she's playing him like... Maybe she needs a man that can take care of her. But I think that should be a man that's like a bit more mellow, right? If you look at the show, then it looks like he kind of wants this, I mean, the drama, because he doesn't have to take care of her. And maybe he feels like, you know, he's being reminded of his mother or something. Who's to say? I mean, what you also have to understand is all these characters are made up. They've been designed to kind of be annoying and stupid, but there are still people like this. I mean, women, yeah, there's this one show, a scene in the hotel, the Four Seasons during New Year's, where Oliver invited Marissa, and then she brings Summer, and then, you know, for some unknown reason, Anna is also there, and then Anna and Summer sit. Hey, that was sweet. Sit there, and then this guy looks at them, is like waving, of course. I mean, yeah, sure, this is all scripted. I mean, we all know that. But just the idea, and then they sit there and he waves and they both like, aha, oh, I get attention, you know, finally someone. You know, why are women so eager to get attention from anyone? Well, so am I. I remember very specifically, oh, I could have taken that. I think I'm just gonna play it one more time later. We were somewhere on holiday, it doesn't really matter where. Yeah, okay, I can... okay, everybody knows I've been born... No, you know? It's a bad place to talk from. Everybody knows? Who's everybody? I mean, okay, I've been born into a middle-class family. And middle class does not mean you're super rich, right? It does not mean you're super rich, it just means middle class generally assumes you may have your own house. Well, yeah, my grandfather built a house, which meant that my father grew up in a house already, and that means he didn't have to grow up and pay a lot of rent, which can make life a bit easier, but he still worked pretty hard, and I would assume that is basically what middle class is about. It's people that just work hard. How did I get that one? That's weird. Middle class is about people who work really hard, usually probably in the industry or something, I don't really know, and then they manage, usually with a credit. You know, middle class people usually don't just buy a house like that. You know, that's like rich, like really rich people. You know, we're talking about middle class that usually gets a credit from a bank, and in this way they can afford the house, right? And what people often don't understand, you know, you can be jealous of people that grew up in a house, and that's probably what people who live in a house think it should be like. But the truth is, I mean, I grew up in a house. We had our own garden, we had no servants or anything. Well, we had our own house, and in this house there lived my family, like my parents, and then my uncle, aunt, and his children. And they were also four, and my grandma for some time, until she got sick because she, I'm just gonna say, was a bit overweight, and she was reluctant to move. So she was mostly just sitting around, probably just due to her heaviness, and because she was pretty stubborn, you know, you couldn't move her. You couldn't move her on her beliefs or anything. It was just like that. You know, okay, that's then her problem to work with. You know, if you get old and nobody wants to spend time with you anymore, well, you can think about why that is. And then you can either change, or you can say, hey, maybe I like it that way, right? And this way, I'm gonna have more time to myself. Well, but what are you gonna do with this time? Well, you can sit around, watch TV, and get really miserable. Or you start doing crochet, or I don't know. Maybe as a man you could do work with wood, but even men can do crochet. Oh wow, how did I miss one crate? Doesn't matter. know, that's just for each of us to decide on our own. But so the people in the OC, they're basically rich, like rich. I mean, they were just born into money. For them, buying a car was just nothing. Okay, but Jimmy Cooper wasn't like that, and neither was his wife. But they still had money for some reason. And it doesn't really matter why. I would say what matters is that, I don't know, I mean, Marissa, the way the character is being portrayed, she's just a compulsive liar. I mean, she's addicted to lying and just torturing other people. And her mother tries to somehow control her, but it's just impossible. So how do you deal with someone who just tries to make other people's life a living hell? And I know I get it, it's just it's just a character. But when I watch this show, I just hate Marissa. But then I think, you know what? I mean, it's Ryan's choice. I mean, yeah, sure, it's just a character, but you know, it's Ryan's choice to be with her. No, nobody can force her. If he has this thing to save everyone, well, maybe he should just take a step back and just set up some boundaries and say, you know what, you know, I've been trying to deal with you. Like, it's that story. I mean, she goes to therapy, right? And she has very bad people skills. I mean, she goes to therapy and she meets a guy. She knows nothing about that guy, okay? And he invites her for New Year's Eve to a party. And she could have the chance to really connect with her boyfriend and just do something nice together. But instead, she just goes alone to a party with a perfect stranger. And then the question is, you know, should Ryan feel compelled to join her? Or should he just stay at home and do his own thing? You know, that's a very valid question. Well, I was trying to think about, you know, what would I do in this situation? I think I would have tried to help her, and then I would have left. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't help people, but to what degree? I mean, I'm the guy who tried a relationship with a pregnant woman, and when I realized that she was simply the way she was, like dumping all her shit onto me, I mean, I get it, I'm the way that I am, and that hasn't changed. And I realized, well, she's the way that she is, you know, she got into trouble, right? She got into trouble. She was the one who got pregnant. And because she went to a party, got drunk, had unprotected sex, and then she was pregnant. I mean, I felt like I wanted to help her, and I did for some time, but at one point I realized, or I was actually being guided to that choice. I spoke about this already for some time. She left, I was living at her place for some time. And I get it, it was good that I left. It was absolutely good. I mean, it was the best choice I could have made. But it was also a hard choice. Because I felt like, you know, I told everyone I'm gonna be a daddy. And a part of me felt also happy about it. But I just realized that's not the way you know, this works for me. Because I actually hated the kid. You know, I'm honest about it. I hated that child. I could have never loved that child. I'm very specific, and that's what I realized only much later. I cannot just love everyone. You know, loving people is work. You know, that's like what Beth says to Jerry when Jerry comes to her and asks her a question. You know, are we still in love with each other, or do you love me? And she says, do you see me working here with you? No, loving you is work, she says. Loving you is hard work. And she says, do you see me working here? You know, I'm still here, right? You know, I mean, that's probably, yeah, loving certain people is real work. And then you have to ask yourself, do you want to put in? Jesus, just explode. Right? You have to ask yourself, do you want to put in the work? Or do you not want to put in the work? And that's then for you to decide how much work you want to put in the relationship. And when you realize your partner isn't tagging along or isn't putting in at least probably an equal amount of work, then you either have to be prepared to put in the extra work and say, okay, because I have the feeling you have issues, right? Let's see the Ryan and Marissa relationship just as an example, because any relationship can be like that one. I mean, I had basically relationships like this. And the other question, of course, that arises is how much has watching the OC in my teenage years shaped the way that I thought a relationship should be? Because these are role models for teenagers, right? These are role models. And you may think, oh wow, you know, this is, Ryan could be basically your hero. And when Ryan turns into your hero, you're gonna probably look for a woman that just gives you trouble all the time. And I just realized at some point, no. You know, you got into a mess. This is not my child. And I was super happy. You know, one part of me was super happy that I could simply leave. Because, you know, if I'm honest, I didn't like her. You know, she was nice in her own way, but she was also quite pretentious. I mean, I've been with women all my life that just act nice when there's people around, maybe not even, and when you're alone, right? They just, you know, they criticize you for everything. You know, every mistake you make, they just push it into your face. And you either learn how to deal with that and you say, hey, I love you so much for whatever reason. You know, I just want to give you love, right? That's like nourishment. You say, I want this relationship for the rest of my life, and I'm going to nourish it and feed it with energy. Like, I'm going to invest myself into this relationship, and I'm going to make sure we will go the rest of the way. And what I realized, it just wasn't enough. Because I'm not someone, I mean, I have a lot to give, but I only have to give what I have to give. And that's what you have to understand. I'm not like the guy who works in the factory. I mean, I've been born into different circumstances, right? And you could say, yeah, sure, I'm benefiting from the fact that my father worked a lot. He raised the family to middle class because he grew up having no money as a child. That's just the way it is, and that inspired him to work. And then I grew up in completely different circumstances. You know, we weren't like rich, but middle class, you know, isn't too bad. And so my father also encouraged us to finish school and to study, which was something that he didn't do. And so the question then, what are you supposed to do? Right? What are you supposed to do? You know, what is your mission in this life? Well, if you want to study, study. I mean, that's the message, right? If that's your goal, for whatever reason, then do it. You know, my parents weren't studied people, and then they had suddenly 2 children that studied. And then they have kind of expectations, you know, what is this child going to do? You know, oh yeah, you know, he's gonna study and he's maybe gonna come after me and work in the industry. And suddenly this child says, right, I want to be a content creator. You know, it is pretty weird. Because, you know, my dad doesn't know anything about just working like this on YouTube and the internet. I mean, what's that kind of a job? Well, I'm basically the friend that some people are missing in their environment that talks about sometimes spiritual things, but mostly actually emotional things. Because I feel like what comes really short in life, in this society, is the emotional side of life. And I believe that it's important to have people like me to actually see value in myself and what I can do, right? I could have been an engineer for, well, I never really got the chance, to be honest. I mean, I did apply for these jobs, I just never got them, which gave me the cue for my own life. It's actually not really what I want. I mean, not at all. And because it's not what I want, I just, you know, try to figure out something else to do, because I don't like the industry. I like nature. But there's very little of it left. Jesus. Right? I mean, there's very little nature left. And my job is to raise awareness for that. I mean, not only because it's also human nature. You know, it's the nature of everything, basically. I mean, science just creates toxic stuff. You know, that's my opinion. Right? That's just my opinion. And you can say, well, that's wrong. Well, but that's still my opinion, right? You know, I try to receive, you know, like genuine healing from doctors. But what I found was that when doctors couldn't help me with my heartburn, well, ayahuasca therapy and cannabis therapy could. Because what it was anger, you know? Anger was shaping the way I was eating. Anger was shaping the way I was eating. Oh, damn. And anger was shaping the way I was sleeping. And anger was, you know, making me overheat. Was an imbalance. And going into nature helped me to heal this. And this is something no doctor could help me with. They just stuck tubes into me. But nobody said, how do you actually feel? Which brought me to the belief, which is my belief, and it's my opinion, and I'm allowed to have it, right? Yeah, forget it. I'm not gonna do this. Nope. Nope. I actually come to the conclusion I don't like the third one that much. I don't even know why I'm playing this. I mean, I also don't want to play this now. I don't know what I want to do. I think this is long enough. I don't know. I've told you some things now, right? Relationships. I'm just gonna pick up on these things in a different recording. I get really nauseous for some reason, and I don't know why. I'm just channeling a lot of stuff, you know. To me, it makes sense. It may not make sense to you, but to me, it makes sense, you know. Channeling energy is very hard. That's it.